Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. Today's webinar is called the Happy Juice Principle, Marketing that Captures and Converts. My name is Kendall and I'll be your moderator today. Today's webinar is brought to you by PPC University. If you're looking to master pay-per-click advertising, check out our 3 free guided courses, PPC 101, 102, and Advanced PPC. You can visit wordstream.com/learn to check it out. If you'd like to take part in live blogging or social media during this event, please use the hashtag WordStream. And now I'll introduce our experts for today. So today on the line we have Perry Marshall. Perry is the author of a best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Google AdWords and the 80/20 Sales and Marketing. He is the most quoted consultant on Google advertising. And he is the founder of Perry S. Marshall & Associates, focused on helping marketers and business owners work smarter. So thank you so much for being with us today, Perry.
Great to be here. And now we have Amber.
Sorry?
Now we have Amber.
We do have Amber.
It's true, I'm here.
So we actually, here she is. We have Amber Stevens, who is the Director of Marketing here at WordStream. So Amber has been here for just over a year, about a year and a half. She has 10 years of online marketing wizardry experience. She has worked at a bunch of Boston-based startups, Unica, Eloqua, SnapApp, and now WordStream. She's fascinated by people and how they behave, and she knows a secret technique that will put a lobster to sleep. Amber, what is that secret technique?
Yeah, I just learned this one today. Perry, do you know how to put a lobster to sleep?
No, but I have a crab story when you're done.
You do? Okay. Well, I learned today, and this is true, that you can put a lobster to sleep by rubbing its forehead, gently stroking its forehead and holding it upside down, and it literally puts the thing right to sleep.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't bite you, and then you can dunk it in boiling water right after that. And
Exactly. You put it to sleep, and then you
little
boil
less relaxing.
What's this crab story?
I've heard that if you put one crab in a bucket, you have to put a lid on it because it'll crawl out. But if you put 2 crabs in a bucket, you don't have to put a lid on because the other one will pull it back in if it tries to escape. So,
Oh my gosh.
So that's
wow.
that's just a microcosm of dysfunctional families.
Yeah.
Survival techniques.
That's right. That's right. So so for those who are, yearning to escape, we have the escape hatch for you on this webinar.
Hopefully you won't need it.
Amber, we actually had someone write in. They knew exactly what the secret was, so
you're
going to need to find
a secret.
All right, so moving along, I'll tell you guys a little bit about WordStream if you're not familiar. We are a search marketing software company founded in 2007, and we're located in beautiful Boston, Massachusetts. We are the number 184 fastest growing private company in the U.S. We were the winner of Best Customer Engagement Driver Award from MyTex a couple years ago. We are currently helping thousands of businesses with PPC management with our PPC Advisor platform, our free AdWords Performance Grader, our free AdWords Landing Page Grader, and our expert PPC management services. So for today's agenda, we are going to cover what the Happy Juice Principle is. Some of you may know, some not. What you need Happy Juice in your sales and marketing and why you should have it there. How you can apply the Happy Juice principle to paid search, content and inbound marketing, and email marketing. And finally, just remember everyone, we'll have a Q&A section at the end, so feel free to pass your questions along in the Q&A box, and we'll try and get to those. And with that, I'm going to hand things over to Amber and Perry. So take it away, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Kendall. Before we jump in, I want to just learn a little bit about who's on the call today, get a sense for who's listening. Let's see. Kendall, can you go ahead and launch the first poll?
Yep, definitely.
So I want to know how big are the teams? Are you a one-man or one-woman show? It's only I in this team. Do you have a couple people on the marketing team, 3 to 5, or are you a pretty large group with more than 5? So we'll give you guys a few minutes to let us know what kind of team or environment you're working in, which will be helpful for us as we go through the content. Let's see, at WordStream, like Kendall mentioned, I've been here for just about a year and a half, and I think I was just saying to Perry at the beginning of the call, we've just been growing like crazy. So the marketing team now has 9 people on it. When I started, we had 3, and we're looking to add a visual designer, a customer marketing specialist. So we're just continuing to recruit and build, which is awesome to see that the team grow. Of course, that makes makes it a little bit harder for everyone to kind of work together and scale on things, but it's really exciting to see how much the team is expanding here at WordStream. So if any of you are interested or know super smart marketers that that might want to come join the WordStream team, definitely send their resumes in.
Definitely. So I'm going to go ahead and share those results.
Awesome.
So we've got 53%, there is only I in this team, 19% 2 people, 22% 3 to 5 people, and 7% more than 5. So we've got a lot of small teams out there.
Definitely. And Perry, what do you typically work with smaller teams and really more of the business owner and entrepreneur type? Is that right?
Hey, I've got a flaky connection. I'm going to disappear for a minute and get on the telephone instead. If you'll just be patient with me.
Okay, no
really
problem.
Sorry about that.
Sure, we'll keep going. We've got one more poll for the audience.
Yep.
Oops, there we go. So this one is just curious, how often are you testing your messages or offers? Whether it be a headline, are you completely changing the phrasing or messaging? Are you changing colors? Are you connecting with your prospective clients and surveying them and understanding what they want and need? How often are you testing anything in your message or offer? All the time, sometimes, pretty infrequently, or never? Curious to see how you guys are doing.
All right. I'm going to close this. I'm going to take a look at what people said. All right, so we've got 22% always, 50% sometimes, 21% pretty infrequently, and 7% never.
Wow, I'm actually surprised, pleasantly surprised to hear that with so many small marketing teams that people get the value of doing different testing and of trying different things. That's really great to see. So hopefully that means that you all will enjoy the content that we have for today. While we wait for Perry to jump back on. Oh, great. That was fast.
There you go.
You're a ninja. So Perry, we just learned that even though we have, more than half of the audience is 1 or 2 person marketing team, I'd say something like 30% are either in the always or sometimes testing category, which I was saying is pretty impressive. I know a lot of times, the biggest barrier to doing different tests is the feeling like you don't have time. So it's great to hear that everyone on the call today knows that this kind of testing mentality is important. So I think they'll get a lot out of the webinar today. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. So what is the Happy Juice principle? I would be very shocked if any of you knew what it was. I think, Perry, here at WordStream, we often look to your blog and your site and some of the thought leadership content that you put out to help us with creative messaging. And we found this when we were in a team brainstorm trying to actually come up with a new idea for webinar topics. And we came across this post that you had on your site, 3 email tricks that squirt happy juice into your reader's brain. And, at first it was definitely unique, so it caught our attention. And we kind of laughed a little bit and talked a little bit about, what did we think happy juice was. And then kind of we read the post and get the sense from the post that it's really about, so just to fill everyone in the audience in, this is about Rich Jacobs, who was talking about how the fact that his audience is a really busy attorney or lawyer. And so he's developed this technique where he's messaging to them a couple of times, even with the same message, but he alters, on day one he'll send a message at 9 a.m. and on day two he'll send it a little later in the afternoon, because he's identified that his audience is extremely busy, and that him actually reaching out a second time is seen as helpful to that busy audience. And so the way that we interpreted Happy Juice was really kind of the idea of creating an experience, understanding who your audience really is, and creating an experience that provides value both for the business but also for the audience. And so as we kind of took that approach and thought back to the different kinds of tests and content that we produce here on the marketing team, we started to actually feel like this Happy Juice principle, if you will, was really a legit thing. And the more we thought about it, the definition that we arrived at was really kind of, if you think about optimization testing, so not just A/B testing, but messaging, experience, flow, all things to do with the way that a person interprets an experience, matched with persona mapping, or having a true deep understanding of who your target audience is, what needs they have. There's this sweet spot in the middle, and that's a whole bunch of candy, because it's literally a sweet spot that we thought kind of emerges when these two things intersect. And to us, it's really when the messaging and the experience have been tested and truly match the intent and the needs or wants of the target market. And so that's what we've decided that the Happy Juice principle is. And like I said, as we thought back about the different tests and marketing programs that we've put together, we noticed that when there was a test that had been influenced by a deeper understanding of the intent or the need from the audience, the results that we would get from a great optimization test would be 3, 4, 5, 6 times what we might get from just a more basic A/B test. And so just as much as I want you to know what the Happy Juice principle is, I want you to know what the Happy Juice principle is not. And so, for example, with this control button being tested against this experiment button, it's great. It still produced an 11% increase in the number of clicks just by changing the color and kind of the look and feel of the button. This is an A/B test. This is great. Everyone should be doing A/B tests as well. But hopefully what we will be able to show you in the webinar today is that when you're able to really kind of get into the mind of your audience, understand what they really need and what they're really looking for, you're able to produce a different kind of an experience. You're able to offer a different solution or help somebody arrive at an answer in a different way, which to me is completely different than an A/B test like this. And the benefit, as I mentioned, both for the person going through the experience, that potential client, is that they get what they need and in a more efficient, hopefully, and helpful way, and the business gets greater results and greater conversions. And so I will spend some time sharing with you all a couple of specific examples from WordStream's marketing testing, and I'll show you sort of what was the intent, what tools did we use, what results did we get, and how did that all come together and work. But before I jump in, Perry, it's your blog post. What do you think about our interpretation of the Happy Juice principle, and would you add anything to that?
Yeah, so I think that's excellent, and really, if you really get the Happy Juice principle, it trumps the mechanical A/B testing stuff by light years. Okay,
yes.
Actually, if what you do really does squirt Happy Juice into their brain, you don't have to have an orange button instead of a red button. You could force them to write you a check, lick stamp, stick it in an envelope, and and stick it in the mail, and and wait for it to get there and everything else. They would happily do that if you're really delivering that. And so if you look at Rich's original blog post, which you can easily find on my site, he says really hot prospects will click on the same email link 5 or 10 times. Mm-hmm. Okay, now let's just stop for a second and see, what really? Yeah. Like, well, why would they do that? It's because, so like what he writes about attorneys who are struggling in their practice. Contrary to popular conception, like not all attorneys are unbelievably wealthy with trophy wives and, $450 an hour and whatever, right? There's a lot of attorneys out there, they feel like a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest, and they don't have enough clients, and there's stuff going wrong, and there's competition and everything else. And so, he's talking about this stuff, and somebody that's really in the zone of, man, I got to desperately get this solved, they will go back and like, oh, Rich wrote this really great email mm-hmm. the other day, and they'll go back and they'll find it, and they'll read it again. They might click again to the blog post. He's like, so that's the guys he calls. And they are in the zone. And so, there's this principle, let's call it the principle of the Grateful Dead bootleg tape, okay? Okay. Which is, you'll have, like the super extreme Grateful Dead fan has 27 different versions of Casey driving that train. Well, this is like live from San Francisco in 1991, and this is from Denver in 1987, and you notice in this song, Jerry, like, plays a guitar solo a little different, and, Mickey's got a little bit different rhythm on those drums, and, like, they actually want to sit there and listen to 20 different versions of the same song because the Grateful Dead is really tickling their happy juice. So, like, this isn't just something we made up because it sounds good. I mean, I did use it because it sounds good. Like, whenever I say squirt happy juice in your brain, like, I always get a grin from people. But, like, well, it's true. It's like how it works. You want to squirt happy juice in your kid's head, you just buy them trains for Christmas, and then, and they like it, right? So, yeah, dead serious.
Awesome. So, Perry, I think you had some, as I mentioned, we at WordStream, we enjoy your content and your approach. We reference a lot this Swiss Army knife kind of approach that you have to coming up with really creative ad copy. And I know that you have some of that, some of those ad examples and kind of techniques you can use to creatively brainstorm for messaging and stuff. Do you want to share that with the audience now?
Yeah. So actually, I have a couple of things, and if you push the little button, and I'll do the share screen thing here with you. There's two things that I would like to bring to your attention.
You got the controls there? Great.
If you'll tell me if you can see what I'm doing here.
I can see it.
Okay, so I'm going to go through two things with you. One of these is a method for okay, give me a second because I just want. All right, so I'm going to show you an example of how to get to how do you find out what itch that you need to scratch in order to get to that customer. You have to understand that 90% of your customers will never be like the guy that Rich is describing where they'll go click on an email 10 times. Okay, like 90% of them aren't going to do anything. They might click on your ad and they might come to your website, they might do something, but they're never going to be hyper responsive. But what I want you to think about is, well, okay, so the 10% that are, or the 5% or the 1%, whoever, how do you find out what really trips their trigger? And I'm going to show you a method, and I stole this. I blatantly stole it from Glenn Livingston. He's a marketing genius. In fact, if you haven't, maybe you guys should have him on sometime. But
Yeah.
I describe this in my book 80/20 Sales and Marketing, and it's 3 questions, and here's what they are. So this is Glenn doing this on a site that's about bunny rabbits. Okay, it could be, fill in the blank. It could be computer servers for all I care. But what's the single most important thing I can help you in your bunny rabbit with which I haven't addressed so far? Okay, so change bunny rabbit, computer server, vegan diet, raw food, beer making, ISO 9000 certification, whatever, right? So that's the first question, okay? And you have a blank, and they can write stuff in there, okay? And that's the first one. The second one is, how difficult has it been for you to find a solid answer or a solution to this elsewhere, okay? And what you see here on my screen is you got 3 choices. Not at all difficult, somewhat difficult, very difficult, okay? So that's the second question. And the third question is, why specifically would getting this answer or solution be important to you? How would it change your life? Okay, so you got these 3 questions, and 2 are fill in the blank, and 1 is multiple choice. Now, you could put this in an email, and you could drive them to a web form. Yeah, I don't really care how you get the answers, but here's what you do, is you throw out all of the not at all difficult, and you throw out all of the somewhat difficult, and you just ignore them. Because if it wasn't difficult, or it was only a little difficult for them to solve the problem, then they've probably already solved it, and they're not going to buy from you, and they're certainly not going to click on your email 5 times. Okay? And you take what's left, which is only the people that said it's very difficult, and then you throw away the short answers, and you keep the long answers. In fact, there's a little length of answer function in Excel that'll tell you how many characters their answer was. You could even sort by that. And you'll start with the long answers. The people that wrote you a book, guess what? They're in pain, and they're in desperate desire of happy juice. Okay? And then, and it's really funny because, you get like 100 people to fill out your survey. You're going to get 5 or 10 of them, and they'll sit there, they'll write you a little novel in this little tiny box, and they'll tell you all about their problem. And the funny thing is like, if you can't get people to do this, you're probably in the wrong market. And they will tell you not only what's bugging them and what they're trying to solve, but they'll use language that will work when you give back to them what they asked for. This is really powerful, and I would say that just by doing this one survey technique, like let's say you're going into a new market and you don't know quite what you're doing and you're kind of trying to figure it out, this will reduce your failure rate from probably 90% to 50% just doing this survey. And then now you've got all this information about your customers, and you know what they really, 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 really want. And then you can apply all these creative tools to communicating with them or testing stuff. And now you have a whole list of things to test, because some people described it this way, some people described it that way. Some people really, they want problem A to be solved. Some people really want problem B to be solved. And like they tell you. So let's keep it to that. I've got another document I'll show you in a little bit, but
Perry, I have a question for you. What's the right point in the experience to give this survey? Is it after somebody buys, after they abandon? Have you learned anything about the timing that makes it more likely that somebody will?
You can use this anywhere as long as you take the answers and apply it to those people who are at that spot, right? So if it's people abandoning your website, then, oh, that's people abandoning my website. If it's people that have been customers for 3 years, right, that's like completely different. But that just means you need to apply the answers at a different spot in the customer relationship. But where most people use this is before the first sale. Now, I just used this. I've used it twice in the last month, and one of it was on only people who are brand new in my database in the last 90 days, so I was getting pretty much brand new people, and another one was everybody who had bought a certain product, and I wanted to know, so what itch have we not scratched for you? And of course, so I mark it appropriately.
Great.
Now, I'll take a kind of a little twist here, and I got, you talked about Happy Juice, and I wanted to do something fun here, okay? And so I gave you the work part of it, which is the survey that I told you. In the survey, by the way, there's a really nice summary of this survey in my 80/20 book in Chapter 21, at the very end of Chapter 21. You can get my 80/20 book for $7 if you go to sell8020.com. You could buy it on Amazon for $17, whatever you want to do. But there's a really nice chapter on survey techniques in Chapter 21. And I would encourage you to do that. Now, once you have the information and you know, okay, this is the itch they want to scratch. This is the pain they're in. This is the problem that they can't seem to find an answer for. Now you can be creative and playful in how you describe their problems to them and how you write ads that get attention. Because, the thing about Google AdWords is, well, it seems like about 4 or 5 years ago, the world started to finally figure out that you have to test stuff. And so all the good marketers are testing stuff. And if you're not testing stuff, well, you're really in serious trouble. But if you are testing stuff, then you are an average good advertiser. And what really ends up separating the men from the boys, or, the girls from the women, or however you want to say it, is how smart are they about choosing what to test, okay? And so I want to give you a few interesting, I've got just a whole variety of examples here. Some of them are real, some of them are fictitious, some of them are just to illustrate a point. Some of them are like absolutely slam the ball out of park success stories. This one right here was a super successful ad. And basically this ad and a few other ads like it built a multi-million-dollar company almost single-handedly. And it was wrinkle removal miracle. Skin transforms in 60 seconds used by Oprah, Beyonce, and Britney. Dreamu.com. Okay? Now, this was really interesting because the celebrity factor outsold everything else we attempted by far. Like, by light years. If we had ads that talked about Oprah and these movie stars, or in pop singers and stuff, as opposed to having ads that didn't, like, the celebrity thing was just a lay down. Now, you should seriously ask yourself the question, is there any way we could legitimately use or hire a celebrity endorsement? Now, in this case, Oprah actually featured the product on the Oprah website. And they did verify that Beyonce was using it, and they allowed him to say so. And so, like, it was seriously successful. Celebrity stuff is really powerful. Okay. Here's another one. Now, this is fictitious, but, you know, there's a million cute little phrases that instantly evoke emotion. Okay, you know, go ahead, make my day. You know, that triggers an emotional trigger for people. You know, there are lots of these, and we use them in conversations every day, but I don't see very many people trying them in ads. Okay? Another one, sound. Not very many ads that use sound. Okay, I very rarely have I seen an ad that said something, you know, had a word like splat. Okay, and you know, in some markets, I think especially in display network, you could definitely grab attention with words like that. Auditory sound kind of words. Sight, sound, and motion. Fear no man. Blood flies, bones crunch, jaws crack. They'll never mess with you again. StreetFightingSecrets.com. You know, if you're in a market that has a highly emotional topic, then get at the emotion. And by the way, a lot of markets are highly emotional, even ones that pretend to be really professional and wear suit and ties. Look, true or false, people in meetings get in heated arguments once in a while. If they do, then you're in a high emotion market. Well, try tapping into that emotion. Automatopoeia, words that imitate sounds like bang and buzz or scritch, scratch. Anger management. Smash, punch bowls in pieces, get control of yourself. Well, you know, show don't tell. You know, if you don't tell us about anger management, show us anger management. Metaphors. Will your wedding be a carnival of utter confusion or happiest day of your life? I hope you're writing these down. You know, metaphors. You know, metaphors are, you know, one linguistic tool. You know what? So what I do when I want to write ads, and I would do stuff like this, I'll sit there with my pad of paper and I'll write metaphors. Like, okay, come up with 5 metaphors that describe your customer's problem. And I'll sit there and I'll come up with stuff. And, you know, what's funny is I don't usually end up using the formula exactly the way it was given to me in order to come up with the ads that I come up with, but they usually trigger some other thought, and then I just write it down, and it goes in there and it gets used. And I think it's really important when you are testing that you actually have a path that you're going to go down, and you're going to try different specific things, and not merely like just try something else. Like something else is not a strategy. And, you know, jump in anytime you have anything to add or you want to move me into a different.
Well, I have a question. So,
yeah.
how do you when, you know, it's pushing, some of the stuff is pushing the envelope, and, you know, in the brainstorm sessions, the brainstorming might go down a path you didn't anticipate. Do you have any guidelines for people to sort of safeguard from pushing the envelope too far? or you
Well,
just test it and try it? Or
you know, Andrew Goodman's like one of the first original AdWords guys. In fact, he's probably the first one. And he had this phrase he called the Goldilocks principle. You know, not too hot, not too cold, but, you know, kind of warm or just right. I've always found with customers, there is a sort of temperature of what works for them. Okay? And like if you're too boring, then that's bad. On the other hand, if they feel like, you know, you're trying to punch their buttons, that can also be bad, okay? And only testing will tell you. So a guideline would be, okay, let's try something that's overstated and like really in your face. Let's try something that is actually obviously understated. And by the way, understatement is a strategy too. You know, and let's kind of take the temperature here. So like, I had a really interesting lesson one time. I had this client, and they produced a catalog that went to politically and religiously conservative people, and I convinced him to make the bullets and headlines on his catalog more provocative and more exciting and more like sort of like Cosmopolitan magazine, like not totally like that, but just, you know, more provocative. So they did that, and they got a bunch of complaints from their customers. The customers actually, they would email in and they would say, boy, you know, your catalog, it's almost kind of like, it's a little racy, or it's like it wasn't a fit. And I was like, well, boy, I thought that was such a great idea. Why wasn't that a good idea? And what I realized was, you know, Cosmopolitan magazine, which is a very successful magazine, obviously. I mean, it's like everywhere, right? You know, they are competing for the impulse buy, and the competition is like candy bars and other magazines. And it's like, so, you know, they're going to have this stuff about, you know, the 47 sex moves that'll leave him panting with desire and all this kind of stuff, right? Well, there's a certain kind of customer, a certain age of customer, and a certain state of mind when they buy that, and that is very, very, very different than, you know, a mom or a dad or a kid who's like sitting on the john and actually going to sit there and they're going to get this catalog out and look at it several times during the next 6 months. You see how completely different it is? You know, and so like some things you write to, like, you know, smack somebody in the face and get a response, and sometimes that's not actually what you want. Does that put a little more of a balance on it?
yeah, I think so, and I think it's also, I mean, it has to do with the comfort level of the business as well, right? So you'll know
certainly.
if you're pushing a little too far.
Well, you know, the nice thing is there's nothing to keep you from just sticking this in your ad mix and trying some things, and at least trying something that you've never done before.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, I'm not trying to get you to be obnoxious. That's not the point. But, like, most people don't even begin to explore all of the potential ideas that they could be putting out there. And, you know, the thing that I always liked about AdWords was nobody can stop you from being more clever than the other guy, or just managing to say something that the other guy would have never thought to say.
Mm-hmm. Perry, I know you have quite a few examples here in this document. Do you want to maybe show us one more, and then we can jump into some of the other content, because we're actually...
Yes, by all means. So let me give you...
Give us your best one.
Actually, if you'll talk for a second, I'll pull up
a real example of one that I just think was fabulous. Here, I'll give you the screen back,
Great.
and then I'll tell you in a second, okay? Let's see. Yeah, if you can just...
I think I can just take it back. Okay. All right, so I'm back on now, and I'll talk for a little bit. So the examples that I have, Perry, I think you, as I mentioned, have a very creative approach to thinking about how to push yourself to think outside of the box. What I have are a couple of examples of how we've applied some of those strategies here at WordStream. So I've got an example of a couple of tests that we've done in our paid search channel, as well as an example for a content piece that we produce on our blog for organic traffic, and then a tip for email marketers. So a little bit of something for everyone, different than normally we tend to focus on paid search, but we tried to expand some of the examples here, all with the goal of getting people, making my boss happy that we've done a great job in marketing, but also hopefully, putting some useful content and a great experience in front of our prospects. So maybe I can go through one or two of the top examples, and then we can see what live example you've got.
Yep, you bet.
Awesome. So this I'll skip because just I guess a caveat here is I think we at WordStream we do a lot of testing. So we use a tool called Optimizely that lets us easily produce and track and measure results of A/B tests. We have an email marketing solution that we use that lets us do some really powerful, interesting targeting things called Marketo. Plus, obviously, we use WordStream's PPC Advisor to help us get tips and hints on our paid search account. But I would say above all of the tools that we have that help us practice the happy juice principle, it's really more, I think, the culture that we have that keeps us testing and always learning. And so, we're definitely, we've learned a lot. We'll keep learning more, and that's kind of the mantra and the culture that we have here that I think is valuable. A couple things that we're proud of. So, the value of all of the testing that we've done and that we do as a team is definitely evident in the results that we've been able to achieve. So we've grown our website visitors year over year by over 100%, which is awesome. We've been able to
That is awesome. You're in a very competitive space. Yeah.
So kudos to Larry, Kim, our founder, and our content team. They do a lot of hard work, but big payoff. And through that traffic and through some of these tests and conversion rate optimization, and we've been able to also then double the number of qualified leads that we're passing over to our sales team, which those things combined along with an awesome sales team and a great, hopefully helpful methodology and strategy on the sales side, we've got hockey stick revenue growth. Like our chart is up and to the right, which is awesome. So I'll share a couple of the examples that we've put together that have helped us do that. I'll move quickly through this because, Perry, you've actually touched on a lot of this. So, I think the foundation of the Happy Juice principle is knowing who you're talking to and really understanding who your buyer is. So whether it be phone surveys or actual surveys on your website or that are emailed, like Perry showed, or if you're collecting information as you go along. So if you have content on your website, offers that you're gating and requiring people to put information in to access, you can alter the questions and the information that you might collect there. And just as important as what I tell you overtly in a form or a specific question you ask, the behaviors that I'm taking, if you have a web analytics tool or a system that lets you actually see what I'm doing, that can be just as powerful or more powerful than what I tell you I'm interested in doing. And there are actually a lot of, there are some free tools out there, one of which I just learned about recently. I don't know, everyone in the world might know about this, and I might be the only one who was just learning, but we recently had a Google Analytics training course here on the marketing team, and our trainer showed us this section in Google Analytics, which is under the audience tree, and it's demographic and interest data about the people who are coming to your website. I think that this is so interesting and powerful, and so we've learned, our market is predominantly male, and in the 25 to 44 age range. That's interesting to know. But what's really cool is this interest section, and so it will tell you what are the habits, or what are the hobbies, I'm sorry, what sorts of things are the people in your audience interested in. And I get excited about this because I think it lets us understand who we're talking to and what they're interested in at a deeper level than we could get in a typical marketing survey or information that we may collect on our site. And so this helps us think about, we've been testing contests and sweepstakes, and so this helps us think about what could be a unique or cool prize that we could give somebody that would motivate them to, to continue to engage with us. So this is a really cool, obviously you have to have Google Analytics tracking strips set up in your site to get this data, but super powerful insight that I thought was really cool and want to share with you guys. So I'll share with you an example from our content marketing strategy. So for those of you on the call who aren't familiar, the WordStream blog is a super powerful tool for us. We spend a lot of time and effort producing content all about different kinds of marketing strategies on the blog. We tend to produce about 4 or 5 articles a week, so it's quite a lot of content, all with the goal of helping us continue to increase our organic traffic. So we hold our blog to a standard of awesomeness, we call it, and so we actually have a goal for each piece of content that we produce. We want it to be awesome, and awesome means that it has at least 1,000 page views, that there's comments, and that there's social sharing. So we're producing content that people are coming to and engaging with. And part of how we figure out what content to write is with keyword research. And so Elisa Gaber is our blog manager, and she did some keyword research and found that ad choices, which is a term at least related to Google and search advertising or display advertising, had a high monthly search volume but low competition. So she said, great, let's produce a piece of content on the blog about ad choices, and had one of our customer success managers write up a long blog post that did a great job of explaining everything that ad choices was. And so we published that, and then Elisa went back and said, well, it's not getting the traffic that we wanted. It's not hitting that awesome standard. And so she went and did a little bit of research. Simple, just went into Google, typed in ad choices, and saw what content was ranking high organically for that term. And she actually ended up finding out that a lot of the high-ranking searches were people looking for help removing AdSense. And so just by doing that simple kind of competitive intelligence and looking and see who was ranking on that term and what was the content that they had, she was able to realize that the intent or the problem that somebody was trying to solve was actually different than the content that we had produced. We weren't solving that need. So she just simply revised that blog post, added a section about how to go ahead and get rid of ad choices, and if you can see, when it was republished, you'll start to see how quickly the rankings and traffic started to pick up. And so within a couple of weeks, it started to tick up closer to that awesome standard, and now is getting even a couple hundred page views per day. And you'll see this is a search that I just did actually just yesterday. It's now the ranked number 2. So just as very, kind of from a content marketing perspective, both the insight to look and see what kind of content, where is there a gap, what can I produce, but then also remembering to go back and look, is it performing how we want, is it hitting our goals, and then using the tools that we have to understand if we've hit the mark with the intent, and then in this case we hadn't, so made a quick adjustment, which is what's so cool about online marketing, is your ability to change so quickly. Made a quick adjustment and was able to move us from, I think we were on like page 3 or 4 of the search results before, and now are ranked number 2. And so that's the kind of approach that we're taking with our content marketing and understanding how it's working, and that that has been just one of the things that have helped us increase that site traffic, organic site traffic even, by over 100%. So that's just one interesting example. Perry, did you find your ad text that you wanted to share?
I'm ready whenever you are. So, yeah, and it's really amazing how seldom it is that people will really just take a few extra minutes and figure out. Sometimes you can figure out a lot of things just by going to some social media conversations or, looking at Twitter conversations that have been going on or whatever, and, you can do that, and you should. So I want to show you something. This is from a course we did called AdWords Copywriting Express, and we sell that on our website. You can find it in the product section. And what I did in that course was I did live hot seats with AdWords advertisers, and we looked at what they were doing, and then I gave them very specific suggestions as to how to approach their market and their testing, and then they came back on the line a few weeks later, and I said, okay, so what happened? So I had a gentleman named Ben Gorelick, and he runs a mountain guide training school, and he had ads that looked like this. Rock climbing courses, develop climbing skills rapidly, school in Picos de Europa, Spain, rockclimbschool.com, stuff like that. You can see here he got 4, 5, 6% click-through rates. And we went through an exercise with them, and it was all about, so what are your customers' real emotions and feelings, and why do they actually come to a rock climbing school? And so I started asking all these questions, and I come to find out that his customers' happy juice thing was actually all about escaping their job and having a new kind of career that would be way more exciting than, punching the clock. And so he rewrote his ads, and you can see the click-through rates that he got here, which are in the vicinity of 8, 9, 10, 12%.
Yeah, that's
and the
great.
new ads, mountaineering school, born, college, job, marry, house, kid, retire, die. Want more? Which do you choose? Go bowling and have beer with Bob. Which, of course, is a direct insult to the WordStream
Yes.
$10 million celebration. Or 2, climb mountains in Patagonia. Work sucks. I unzip my tent. What's your commute? Alaska Mountaineering School, 6-day mountaineering program. Does your mommy drop you off too? And, these just so totally stuck out. And this is an example of a market where being edgy really did work. Okay, and so he doubled his click-through rates. His cost per customer acquisition immediately dropped by about 40%. His impression share went up, and he's gone on to reinvent that business. I just saw him last week with his wife, and I mean, they are really kicking butt. And what's going to happen, by the way, is yeah, anybody can come up with some clever Google ads, but they are actually doing all of their marketing and everything all the way down to their company culture to be consistent with this. And they are creating something that almost cannot be imitated.
It's all about the experience.
Yeah, they are creating experience, and it started with the happy juice thing. It's like, well, what really is the happy juice of the customer experience? And he got to it, like he really got it. I told him what to do, and he did it, and you can see it right here, and man, what a thrill ride.
Yeah, those are some impressive, very impressive click-through rates.
Yeah. So, look, if you don't know absolutely for sure that you're hitting your customer's happy juice spot, you're probably not. And when you finally do, watch out, because it's fun.
Awesome. Thanks, Perry.
Yeah. So that's what I got for you.
Awesome. I'll go ahead and take back the controls again, and let's see. Great. Everyone should be seeing mine again. We are running low on time, so I'll go a little bit quickly so that I can make sure we get you guys some of the examples that we promised. So let's see. WordStream's PPC and remarketing program. I sure as you can imagine, we spend a good chunk of our budget and our time thinking about our paid search and remarketing strategy. Extremely effective acquisition channel for our business. And so this is an example. I don't know, this is another one where I'm not sure how many people know about the, and I always struggle to say this word, the search query report, or as AdWords calls it, the search term report, probably because it's just a lot easier to pronounce. But I say, believe in the query fairy. She does exist, because this report, if you go into your AdWords account and access your search report, search query report, you'll be able to see what phrases, what specific and exact phrases are people searching, typing into the search engine when your ad is appearing. And this is really important because you talk about getting into the buyer's head. This helps you literally see what they're typing and what they're looking for, and it will give you amazing insight, which can help with your ad copy. And I think our example is probably a little bit definitely more boring than your bowling with Bobs and getting born and married and dying and all of those examples, but we just took a simple kind of learning by looking through that search term report, and we're able to adjust the headline in the ad text. You'll see the top one here, this bottom one, all we did was change the headline of the ad, which better matched what people were literally, the phrase that they were using to search on, and we were able, we lifted clicks by 34%. So this, again, it was a relatively simple kind of test that we did, but by using that search query report to truly understand what the intent was and what people needed and were looking for, a simple switch made a huge impact. Now, I'm sure we could use your Swiss Army technique and come up with some more interesting versions of this ad copy, but this was a pretty big win for us without having to push the envelope too much. And then here's another example from our paid search. So this one really involves a big shift in the experience. So what you're looking at here is a screenshot of our free AdWords Performance Grader. It's an awesome tool. If you haven't run your account through it and you're advertising in Google, you should, because it's free and you'll get a ton of useful information from it. But this is the page that we were sending people to, and there's a lot of information on here. You come in and you can see the form. There's three parts. They're looking for lots of different information. There's security cues or what we call trust building cues that we've included in here with your data is safe, fast, secure, free. There's quite a lot you can do and quite a lot that is on this page. And so this was kind of an example where we took both, we had a survey. We have a survey that we send to people if they come to this page and didn't complete the process, and we got some really helpful and thoughtful feedback from folks letting us understand why they weren't completing. We also recently did some phone outreach to understand on a little bit more personal way and with more context, kind of what people were thinking and feeling as they were going through this experience. And then even at a trade show, we had a recent trade show. We had this up and available in our booth, and we actually got to see people go through the process firsthand. So it was kind of like a mini test group, which was great. So we took all of that information and all of that feedback and really completely changed the experience and the way that the information is being unfolded and kind of revealed. And so what we have is we've shifted from the form where you've got to provide a bunch of different information, and we're asking just for the email, and we're providing only the information, hopefully, that you need right now to make a decision on whether or not it's worth you kind of beginning this process. And we do still have a lot of the trust cues, so security language, a quote from yours truly, Perry Marshall, and an example of the report. And then if they begin the process, then on the second page we're able to collect the remaining information that we need, then serve up some more information about what they should be expecting next rather than including that on that first page. And so by breaking up the experience and providing the information more contextually and more at the appropriate time as they're going through the experience, we were able to get an 86% improvement in lead capture, which is, I mean, just huge. So now we can take that learning and apply that across channel and see if the improvement holds. But again, so pretty substantial change in the flow, but by kind of trying to provide the information when the visitor needed it, it helps us be a lot more efficient with capturing those leads. And then for email marketing, just trying to do a quick time check. For email marketing, WordStream, we serve both agencies and advertisers, and I'm sure as you can appreciate, an agency that's managing multiple paid search accounts will have different pains and different priorities than an individual advertiser would have. But we have this concept of a welcome email, so when a new lead comes into our database, we send them an email and kind of just say hello, hopefully tell them a little bit about who we are, and we did have it, the welcome email was sort of generic and one size fits all. And interestingly enough, even with that, we got a pretty high open and click rate. But when we did a little bit of testing to break that messaging out, so I'm just having a problem advancing my screen. Let's see. Kendall, are you able to move the slide forward?
Let me give it a try. Oh, it's not working for me.
Technology, schmology.
Technology. Bummer.
You know, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars of traffic did it take for all those tests everybody just watched go by? To, you know, some pretty valuable stuff that you guys just went through there.
Yeah, you know, I think because we get a lot of traffic to the site, we're able to conduct statistically significant tests pretty quickly, which is great. You know, sometimes it can be as little as a couple of days. Sometimes it might be a little bit longer, but we are blessed by that. I'm going to just go quickly through this last example because I think this one's a fun one. But so we took broke out that welcome email, and we just created some content that was more personal and spoke more to that agency. We did some subject line testing, so found a winner. What's interesting here is that what the advertiser responded to best was completely different than what the agency responded to best, which is why it's so important to test. But by breaking out the email by agency and to advertiser, we were able to get close to 50% open rate on an email, which is just crazy. I don't think I've never seen this in my career, and so that's a 77% lift on the open rate and a 76% improvement in the click-through rate from when we had the general version. And if we take a look at what that means, you know, kind of to the business, if we take the average open and click-through rate, and I just kind of rounded them up for ease here, with a 30% open rate, which is awesome too, at the end of the funnel we kind of get 255 leads that come out the bottom. With that same email and a 50% open rate, we get 5,000 kind of conversions and then or clicks, and then 425 leads come out the bottom of the funnel. And that's 67% more leads. So for businesses that are transactional, or even for businesses like B2B or software where it's a longer sales cycle and you want to keep getting people to engage, you can imagine over, you know, the course of time how powerful a really great subject line and a really personal kind of message can be for the business. And then I was going to share some tips from a really great webinar that I attended a while back from Moz, but I think I'll probably have to make sure that you guys get this in the recording and follow up. But there is some really great tips that they gave on how to write killer headlines, specifically for social media, but I think that this strategy applies to ad copywriting, subject line writing, blog post title creation. And then Perry, I think you'll like this one. I don't know if you've ever seen Upworthy's editorial process. You familiar with this one?
No.
they force seems like a strong word, but they encourage their content creators to write 25 headlines for every piece of content that they produce, knowing that by forcing yourself to produce that many versions, you're going to have some that will suck, you're going to have some that will be just weird and awkward, but if you push yourself to keep kind of creating very different versions of something, you're going to arrive at a couple that will stand out and be really unique. And so we think about this here at WordStream when we're trying to come up with topics and ideas as well. And so wanted to share that because I thought that was an interesting approach. And just to kind of get us back on track. So we've learned a lot, hopefully. Perry, if you're open to it, we'll make sure that people get the different ad examples that you shared, or we can send someone to your site if you want to provide us a link. But we've learned a lot about kind of understanding, the value of understanding who your audience is and some techniques that you can use there to really get at that insight. But with SEO specifically in content, you need to understand the intent and why people want that content, what problem they're trying to solve. And just simple things, make sure you go back and check the competition. Are you ranking the way that you expected to? If not, how is your content different than the content that is ranking? With paid search, believe in the query fairy, so go and find your search term report and pull out all those great nuggets about what people are actually using to search for. And then with email, think about ways to get personal with your message, and just a simple subject line test. We hopefully showed you how impactful just doing that can be. And so for those smaller teams, which it sounds like a lot of you guys are testing anyways, but for those smaller teams, getting started somewhere is critical. As Perry mentioned, if you're not testing, then if you're not in deep trouble yet, you're probably going to be. So test is the mantra, and really get inside your buyer's head and understand who they are. So, Kendall, I know we're super late, so maybe you want to throw up the last poll. If anybody wants to take us up on a special offer, of course our free AdWords grader is always free and always available, but if you'd like a personal one-on-one walkthrough of your report with a paid search expert, you can go ahead and opt in there, or a free demo if you're interested in learning a little bit more about WordStream's 20-minute PPC workweek.
Yeah, so thanks Amber and Perry, a lot of really good info, and as Amber mentioned, we will be sending around links to the slides and a recording, so I know there's a lot that we didn't get to cover, but you will be getting that, so keep your eyes open. And we are short on time, but I'm going to leave the special offers open while we go through just a couple of questions. So the first question I have is, how do all of these techniques translate across industries? Like if someone is in the food industry, for example, do they need to take a different approach?
Perry, you want to take a stab at that one?
I'm really sorry. Could you say that again?
Yeah, no problem. Do these Happy Juice marketing principles translate across industries? For instance, if someone's in the food industry, do they need to do it differently?
The principle is exactly the same. And like whether it's B2B and corporate or whether it's B2C, the survey method, it doesn't make any difference. And I'm mostly a B2B marketer, and for example, that mountain training school is B2C, and you certainly wouldn't write the same kind of ads for a corporate B2C audience, but you would still use the same method to get to what their itch to scratch is.
Right. Amber, anything to add there?
No, I think with the principle and the strategies are the same. Test, try to understand who it is and what problem you're trying to solve. But I think why testing is so important is that something that works for me in my industry may not work the same way or work for you at all in your industry or for your audience. So that's kind of why it's critical to test and try. But yeah, the principles and the strategies are definitely transferable across all industries.
Great, great. All right, so our next question is, we've got a ton of tests that we want to try. How do you go about deciding whether or not a test is worth doing, and how do you prioritize?
So I'll take that. Here's a way to prioritize. Forest, trees, branches, leaves. Before you start testing this leaf versus that leaf on the tree, make sure you're in the right forest in the first place. And so you want to test big ideas and very different ideas against each other before you get down to like commas and which verb do you use and stuff like that. Okay? And if your testing begins at the big idea level and you force yourself to stay at the big idea level, you'll eventually you end up so much further down the road than if you start narrowing it down fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great, and that's a great, helpful analogy. I think the way that I try and think about the tests, because we have a long list, long queue of ideas too, is if we can, as best we can, think about what's the potential impact. Is this, is this a test that we think will incrementally improve something, or is this a test that we think will fundamentally kind of shift and change the experience or change the result? And if we think that it has a potential for high impact on the business and on the experience, then those are the ones that we try and go for most. And that's kind of how we sort of approach that.
Mm-hmm. All right, and our last question, how do you guys keep track of all the things that you're testing? It seems like there's a lot to keep track of.
Well, how do you guys do it?
It's really hard. I think that's one of the challenges that we have, again, kind of with a team that's growing fast and so many things going on and so many tests that we want to run. It is hard to keep track of everything in the best way possible. I think with the tool that we use, Optimizely, the tests that run through that, there's history in that tool for us, which is helpful to go back and look at. But I'd say it's a pain. We use a lot of Excel spreadsheets and manual tracking and PowerPoint presentations to document what we did and what the effect was. Sometimes it feels like it's almost as much work tracking and recording what we're doing as it is getting the tests out the door. But it's very invaluable to have a history to go back and look at and to be able to remind ourselves what we did, since you're moving so fast on a day-to-day basis. You need that, but it's definitely a pain. I don't think that we've got the perfect solution there.
I think part of the way you deal with history is you have a plan before the history happens.
Right.
It's like, well, I'm going to test this, and then I'm going to test this, and I'm going to test this. And if somebody comes up with a new idea tomorrow, we refer back to what our original plan is, and then we revise it instead of just willy-nilly running off and trying something new. Because we all are subject to bright, shiny object syndrome, and that to me is the starting point of solving that.
That's a very, very valid and good point.
And then how you track it, well, however you want, pad of paper, Excel, Word document, whatever. 10 years plus of AdWords, I've never heard of any one thing that everybody agrees is the way, but you need something. If you have something, you're way ahead of the game.
Absolutely. I think...
Did we lose her?
Guys, everyone links to the slides and to a recording. So keep your eyes on your inbox. That will likely go out tomorrow. And you are, Amber, if you want to forward to that last slide, I think it has your some contact information on it.
There we go.
Yep, so you can always go and benchmark your AdWords account today with the performance grader, wordstream.com/Google-AdWords. And thank you again, Perry Marshall, for being with us today. It was great to have you as always.
Thank you. It's great to have you, and congratulations on 10 million and a trip to the bowling alley.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you so much, Amber, and we hope to see everyone on a future webinar with us today.
Good night. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.